why rich people love debt. They love leveraging other people's money. Banks invest into people, they invest into setups that are structured properly. I have 100,000 with this bank and I was responsible with it. Now they want to give me 100,000. All right, man, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're gonna be going over why rich people love debt. Solids. Okay, so rich people love debt because of leverage, right? So leverage is something that all successful people, that was about to be a quick game. Rich people love leverage, and leverage isn't just talking about money. Leveraging time, energy, relationships, anything that can be able to be something that is going to be able to make them more productive, that can make them more money, efficiency, you know, they just love being efficient, right? So when we're talking about leverage, solid. When we're talking about leverage, when it comes to credit, they love leveraging other people's money, OPM, as you probably heard some other people say, right? So why would they want to leverage, you know, the bank's money and they already have money, right? One, there's no such thing as too much money, right? So a lot of times when you're dealing with rich people, right, they're thinking of, okay, cool. If you already are a multi-millionaire, then what do you need someone else's money for, right? Why do you need investors? Because there's a risk, right? So once you work hard for something and you get to a certain point, you're not really trying to go backwards, right? So asset protection is going to be something that is very, very important, right? So when rich people are investing in different businesses, when they're investing in different things, their goal is to leverage whatever they have, whether it be their resources, their name, their brand, you know, their capital, you know. Leveraging is just like the key when it comes to being able to get to the next level, right? So, okay, so what you guys have to realize is this, right? No one is looking to really use their own cash. Investors, sometimes they use their money to be able to go get access to more money. But what you have to realize is, where do the investors get their money from? The banks, right? So everyone is in some type of way getting their money from the bank, because you can't just print your own money, right? So the only one that is able to print money is the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve gives the money to the bank, and the bank gives the money to everyday people like us, right? You can show the banks that you have money, you make money, you have cash flow, you have credit, you have assets. The bank will give you money, right? So why would I use my money that I already have, that's already safe, that's already tucked away, when the bank will give me money just for showing that I have money and I make money, right? So that money that they already have, you know, most people, let's say they have it tucked away in somewhere that is making them passive income, where they're getting a return on the money that they already have. They're not going into that money anymore. So when you go get access to more money, that is putting them more in debt. But the way that they use debt isn't the way that everyday people that you guys are probably thinking of use debt, right? Rich people love debt because the more debt that they have, they're using that debt to make them more money. So the more debt they're in, the more money that they're able to make, because they're not using their debt for liabilities. They're using their debt for assets, investments, things that are going to be able to make them more money, make them richer without ever having to use their own money. So that is why you have to be credible. That is why you have to be responsible. And that is why you have to prove yourself to the bank. But once you prove yourself to the bank and you have your business handled the right way, you have your credit set up the right way, you have, you know, your business is set up the right way, other bankers, other lenders, they trust you. Other banks want to compete to lend you their money because they want you to use their money instead, right? So if I go to a bank and a bank gives me 100,000 and I use that 100,000 for a year, and I'm being very, very responsible with that 100,000, when I go to the next bank and I'm like, hey, you know, this bank right here just gave me 100,000 and, you know, this is what I did with it. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I said, banks get paid, you know, when it comes to interest, right? They're trying to get your business. So when they see, hey, okay, I have 100,000 with this bank and I was responsible with it. Now they want to give me 100,000. They might want to give me 120,000 to say, okay, we'll give you more money than them just so you can use us first, right? Because we want you to go use this money and go put it into an investment and make some money and come get more money from us and more money from us and more money from us. So start looking at the bank like a business partner. Start looking at debt. You know, we got to change our mindset because debt isn't used to go buy your favorite shoes and everything like that just for you to be able to live a life of liabilities where you're losing money instead of making money. Debt is supposed to be used to put yourself in real estate. Let's say, okay, so I think it was Robert Kiyosaki, and he was like, oh, if you owe the banks $1 million, you're in trouble. But if you owe the banks, let's say, if like you're in like in $100 million worth of debt, then you know they're the ones that's in trouble, right? So I think his goal was to be in as much debt as possible, to leave in as much debt as possible, because once you're in debt and that debt is making you money, you're really like rich for life, you know? Damn, it's like, I suck, bro. I'm really not this bad. Maybe I am. Hit the green ball. Y'all think I can hit the green ball and without hitting the 8 ball in? That's gonna be kind of risky, I ain't gonna lie. I ain't hit the 8 ball in. Grant Cardone is another business owner, right? Grant Cardone is a heavy real estate investor, and he takes his money and uses loans from the bank to go into his investments, right? He pays the banks back, he keeps the profit. That's the game. That is how you leverage, right? So depending on what level you want to start off, if you want to start off with $100,000, $200,000, then, you know, that's cool. You'll be able to do that just based off of having good credit and taking care of your credit and having, you know, a business set up the right way. But if you're wanting, let's say, millions and millions and millions of dollars, then you're going to need financials. You're going to need, you know, to show that you've been able to be in debt and pay people off, right? So that's really the game, man. Y'all need to stop overcomplicating this whole game. Oh! Damn. It's not looking good, man. So the real question is, and I hear so many people that's like, oh, you know, I have my own money, or I'm just gonna use my own money and I've been saving up. That little $50,000, $100,000 that you guys probably have is not gonna do what you need it to do, right? So once you spend your money, the money is gone. Whether the business works, whether it doesn't work or anything like that, once you spend that money, the money is gone. There's no, you can't like respawn your money, you know? So once that money is gone, it's just gone. With credit, it's not real money, right? So if the credit and the business and everything, you know, everything fails, I'm looking like really, really bad right now. Like this is like a little embarrassing. I keep trying.
You're about to lose everything.
Hey man, no risk, no reward. Okay, so the real thing that you guys got to think of is when you're in debt, right? Are you spending your dollars on something that is predictably going to make you money, or are you out here gambling your money, right? Are you gambling the bank's money? You need to be responsible with the bank's money, you know? Anybody that is thinking about just, you know, being able to go get some credit and putting it on something that, you know, isn't a high likely chance of you being able to make like a profit, making like a return to be able to pay the banks back, then you're not thinking long term enough. You know, you need to think long term when it comes to these, you know, these banks, these institutions, and this money that they're giving you access to. Because once one bank gives you money and they see that you handle it responsibly, another bank and another bank and another bank will also, right? It's just like an investor. if you talk to an investor and they give you $100,000 and you don't pay back the $100,000, then you're going to get a bad name, right? What a lot of you guys don't understand is that these banks, these credit bureaus, all of these things are connected. They all know about you guys, right? So you have to make sure you're doing the right thing when it comes to these institutions, when it comes to these banks, in order to make sure that, hey, okay, cool, you have a good reputation, a good face card. So when you go and you try to go request for more money to go in on another business or to take your business to the next level, then, you know, they're going to do it without any problem, right? You know, so you need to know the difference between good debt and bad debt, right? So bad debt is obviously something that isn't making you any money. All liabilities. You saying that you're gonna go take a trip and your business has nothing to do with trips or content or anything like that. You can turn certain things into, you know, positive. I'm hitting that motherfucker hard. Okay, so the thing that you guys need to focus on, man, is one, building out your personal credit. Building out your personal credit, building out your credit profile in a way that, you know, when you go to the bank on a business side, they're looking at you as an individual of saying, okay, this is a solid person. Banks invest into people, they invest into setups that are structured properly. So when you, the borrower, are set up in a way where, you know, you're trustworthy, you've always paid your debt back on time, you know, you're paying it back in full on the personal side. Once you move over to the business side, the banks are going to open every door, every opportunity for you, you know, just off of your personal credit, right? Because they know what kind of person you are, they know what kind of borrower you are, right? So once you take that, you know, let's say $100,000, $200,000 and you go put that into an investment and you pay that off, then, you know, the banks will start to lend you more money, right? So once they start to lend you more and more and more money, now you're able to make more profits because the more money that you have access to, the more you're able to leverage, right? So there's no real difference between the person who does fix and flips for 50,000 compared to the person that does, you know, real estate, you know, when it comes to 500,000. It's just more money. So the more money that you're able to invest into something, the more return you're able to make, right? You know, because it's really just a numbers game. So you'll see some people when they'll, let's say, invest into stocks or something like that, right? One person might invest in $100, right? And that $100, let's say it's a 20% return. That person with a 20% return on $100 made $20, right? But the person with $1 million investing into the exact same thing that they did was able to make 200,000, right? So here's what you guys need to understand. Rich people don't have to be greedy because they have so much money invested, right? So if I have $1 million that I'm able to invest and I'm only able to make a 10% return, I was able to make $100,000 while the person who invested $1,000 was able to make 100. That person that invested $1,000 and he's trying to make a return, they're going to be greedy. They're going to be greedy because they have to make so much money to be able to try to get like a return on the investment. So now instead of trying to turn 1,000 into 1,200 or turn 1,000 into 2,000, they're trying to take their $1,000 and turn that into 10,000. That person that has $1 million invested, they're not trying to turn $1 million into 10 million all at one time. They're trying to turn that million to 1.1 million and then keep doing that over and over and over again, right? So the more leverage, the more access, the more capital that you have access to, the less greedy that you have to be, and you're going to be able to make a lot safer investments. So let me know if that makes sense. You know, comment in the video. Let me know. But if you guys are looking to be able to get access to leverage, get access to funding, stop using your own money, whether that be from a 9 to 5, whether that be from your business. Yes, it might be a certain point in time, but now we're in 2026. Banks are giving money to every single person that is set up the right way, right? So if you have, even if you have, I don't care how much money you guys have access to, everybody should be trying to use other people's money to be able to go into these investments and to grow what you already have going on. Because I don't care if you made $10 million this year. If you have a way to be able to get another $10 million, then imagine how much money you'll be able to make, right? So if you made $10 million starting with $1 million, imagine how much you'll make if you have access to $10 million, right? So that's what you guys need to focus on. If you need help getting your first, 100,000 plus in, business funding, I'm gonna drop down a link inside where I dropped a 90-minute video explaining exactly how you guys need to set up your profile, what you guys need to do to be able to get access to this first 6 figures, to be able to start your journey on being able to get more leverage and invest that leverage into something that can create you some cash flow, man. So debt is made to create you positive cash flow. That positive cash flow makes you profit. You take the rest of the money and pay it to the principal of whatever you owe, whether that be an investor, the bank, anything like that. You keep the profits, you keep, redoing the same thing over and over again while, your main nest egg is protected, man. So let me know if this video was helpful. Give me a thumbs up on this video. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe.